See, I told you all to chill out.
Seriously?
Hey guys, and welcome to this 40k 9th edition news video with myself, 6 Plus Stevo. So in this one, we're going to be taking a look at the article that was released today on the Warhammer community site, and this is going to be of great interest to anyone who collects an assault based army, because up until now the news regarding 9th edition has been primarily focused on we've had a lot of news of vehicles and things, but it's been very sort of shooting focused, let's say. We've had the news about things like blast weapons, vehicles being able to shoot into combat and things like that. So this has had people with assault and melee armies very concerned. 8th edition shooting was king, and people were getting very concerned that 9th edition was going to carry on that trend, but even more so. So assault armies were going to have even more of a struggle. But I kept telling people, specifically within the orc community, that look, guys, just chill. There's still so much more to be revealed yet. They've only just given us little tidbits of information. They're drip feeding us this stuff. So, you know, don't panic too early. There's still so much more to be revealed. And today proves that, because we've had this news now with an Overwatch overhaul. And this definitely tips the balance back slightly towards assault and melee armies. I don't know why I'm saying assault and melee. They're the same thing. So we'll just say assault armies, which is obviously great news for a lot of us orc players. I'm sure people like Tyrannid players and things like World Eaters and stuff are going to be very pleased with this as well. But with less rambling from me, let's just crack on and take a look at this article and see what it says. So it starts off, Overwatch overhaul. We've been taking a look at some of the changes to the core rules that will have the biggest impact on your games. The studio has received a lot of feedback about Overwatch, so these updates are designed to make it a more deliberate and thoughtful action. The goal is to help balance melee-orientated versus shooty armies and inject a little more strategy on both sides. What is Overwatch? Simply put, it's the snapshots a unit takes when an enemy is running in their direction, blades in hand and war cries in their throats. We've got a lovely picture there of some White Scars Primaris being charged by some of our lovely green gits there. It goes on to say, Overwatch plays a crucial role in Warhammer 40,000. It causes armies that prefer melee combat to exercise a bit of caution as they rush to get to grips with the enemy, and punishes them for charging into heavy firepower. While that's still true in the new edition of the game, things will work a little differently in practice. And this is where we get into the meat of it. So what's new? The first and biggest change is that Overwatch has shifted from a standard reaction to a core stratagem, costing 1 command point to perform. As stratagems can only be used once per phase, you'll have to think long and hard about your odds of success. For example, aggressors armed with Flamestorm gauntlets are sure to roast some of the attackers, whilst a half-strength Astra Militarum squad may struggle to cause enough damage to warrant the cost. And we've got the actual stratagem here, Fire Overwatch for 1 command point. Use this stratagem after an enemy unit has declared a charge against one or more units from your army. One of the units that was chosen as the target of that charge can fire Overwatch before the charge roll is made. So basically, the way Overwatch works once you've spent that stratagem is not changing at all. Overwatch still works the same. It's just that now it costs you 1 CP, and you're only going to be able to use this once. So yeah, this is I think a lot of Tau players are going to be slightly concerned, I think, although they do have some more information down below which kind of softens the blow for some of these armies somewhat. But yeah, it's look, no matter what way you look at it, for melee armies, if your list, your army and your style of play is to get in their face and beat them to death with choppers and stuff, then you're going to be laughing. this is definitely going to make things a lot easier for you. It goes on to say, once you decide to fire Overwatch, it works pretty much as it has in the current edition, with shots hitting on unmodified rolls of 6, unless specified otherwise. And we've got some more rules down here for it where it says, Overwatch. Certain units enable units to fire Overwatch at an enemy unit before it can charge. If an enemy unit declares a charge that targets one or more units from your army that have such a rule, each of those units can fire Overwatch before the charge roll is made. So I think this is basically saying that things like Tau, who have got their greater good ability, where units within range can shoot as if they're being charged as well, but they'll still have to spend the stratagem. So they will still have to use a stratagem, but they will, they're still going to be really good at Overwatch as Tau are. They're still going to be absolutely devastating Overwatch, but it is going to cost them a CP. So even with Tau still being incredibly good at it, you're still going to suffer it less than you currently do. A unit cannot fire Overwatch if there are any enemy units within engagement range of it. Overwatch is resolved like a normal shooting attack, albeit one resolved in the charge phase, and uses all the normal rules, except that an unmodified hit roll of 6 is always required for a successful hit roll, irrespective of the firing model's ballistic skill or any hit roll modifiers. All standard stuff so far. In addition, when a model fires Overwatch, it does so at the charging unit. Any rule that states the unit cannot be targeted unless it is the closest target, e.g. look out sir, does not apply when firing Overwatch. It's then got some bullet points here. It says Overwatch, before charge roll made, all charge targets can fire Overwatch. Before charge roll made, all charge targets that can fire Overwatch do so. Right, I see. Can never fire Overwatch whilst enemy units are within engagement range. And when firing Overwatch, shoot with units, but attacks only hit on unmodified 6s. Overall, this is a huge boost to massed assault armies such as Orcs or Tyranids, you bet your ass it is, that excel at smashing dozens of units into the enemy line all at once. Where previously each one of those units would face retaliatory fire, now your opponent will only be able to target one of your charging units, so will have to choose very carefully indeed. Do you stop the rampaging Trigon from smashing a tank, or that horde of 30 Hormagaunts from shredding an infantry platoon? No easy choice. And yeah, that's a very good point. Like I said, even with armies like Tau, who have that for the greater good ability, they're only going to be able to do it to one of your units charging. And they're not going to be able to use that stratagem multiple times, because you can only use the same stratagem once per phase. So this Overwatch is still going to be a thing. Some armies are going to be better at it than others. You're still going to have to be very careful about picking like where you're charging and who you're charging, but it's certainly going to help a lot. Like this is quite massive. It then goes down onto some terrain benefits down here. So we'll take a look at that as well. I didn't cover this myself. I was otherwise busy when the news came out, and then by the time I had the time to make a video covering it, I think loads of other people had already covered it by then anyway, but we've had the reveal of all the terrain rules and things. So far so good, I think, on the terrain. It's sounding a lot better than it was in 8th. One of 8th's weakest points was its very weak terrain rules. And this is just going into that a little bit further. So we've got some rules here of defensible. Infantry units can hold steady or set to defend if no enemy within engagement range. Hold steady. Overwatch attacks hit on a 5+. And set to defend cannot fire Overwatch, but add 1 to hit rolls in next fight phase. So this is really nice. This is so your infantry can set up in a defensive position within a terrain piece that's classed as defensible, and then you can choose. You can hold steady, getting ready to buff your Overwatch, or you can set to defend and increase your combat abilities once you're charged. So yeah, really good stuff, and that's good because it's obviously going to benefit either type of unit that's in that. If you're a very shooty unit, then you're obviously going to go for your buffed Overwatch. If you've got some combat abilities or your shooting's not up to much, then you're going to go for the increase in the to hits in the fight phase. So very, very cool stuff, this. I like the way that terrain sounds like it's going to be a lot more integral to the game, and it's going to add just a lot more like dynamic sort of effects on the game. It's going to be sort of part of the world. It's going to be so much more immersive, which is just sounding really good fun, which is the most important thing. When facing a big gunline unit that's dug into some solid terrain, this crucial boost can make your opponent think twice, especially if it's a long-range charge that may well end in failure. Very true. And then we've got the kings of Overwatch here, the Tau. And I know Tau players are going to be reading this article very closely and with great concern. You may find that for some units, some units benefit from other special rules that modify Overwatch as well, such as the Tau for the greater good special rule. One of our favourite new ones is a battle trait your units can receive as part of a crusade force, permanently granting them free and improved Overwatch. So we'll talk about it in a minute. We'll just read on a little bit further first. Cool-headed. You can re-roll failed morale tests taken for this unit. In addition, if a unit declares this unit as the target of their charge, this unit can fire Overwatch and will score hits on unmodified rolls of 5+ instead of 6 when doing so. So this has got, I think, some people talking online thinking that certain units in the game are immune from these new Overwatch rules and they're still going to be able to do Overwatch as normal. This is only in the new Crusade game mode, in terms of when you're playing the campaigns and your units are leveling up and becoming like veterans and things, and they gain abilities. And that is what this is. This is what they call a battle trait that your unit can receive as part of a Crusade force, permanently granting them free and improved Overwatch. So not only do they get it without needing to spend the command points, but they're going to be better at it as well. Your ice-cold veterans are having none of that enemy charge. Free Overwatch attacks like this are few and far between, but they're worth seeking out because they don't prevent you from using the stratagem in the same phase. So yeah, that's a good point as well. If you do have some of these veteran units within your army, they can fire Overwatch, and then when another one of your units that isn't a veteran is charged, you can then spend the CP and do Overwatch with them as well. So there are ways round it for shooty armies, but they're going to have to be quite savvy and think ahead on things like that. But like I say, that's just part of the Crusade game, so I believe from reading this. Be careful though, a savvy enemy might be able to catch you off guard if you're in their deployment zone. The strategic reserves rule allows a unit to deploy on their own table edge, even if it's within engagement range, 1 inch of an enemy, and proceed to make attacks as though they charged. This is such a situational rarity that it probably won't come up very often, but a stunt like that completely bypasses Overwatch to surprise unwary or careless opponents. And this is huge and brilliant. This means that your reserves, if they come in on your border edge, if you've got enemy in your deployment zone, you can come in from reserve straight into combat and count as charging. That's massively powerful, and this is going to make it very hard for assault armies and trying to take objectives and things within the enemy deployment zone. They're going to be your own deployment zone is going to be very defendable now, along with the new rules of terrain and things, and having reserves that have been able to usually. All the way through 8th, we've used reserves to be able to come in sort of no man's land or the enemy deployment zone, come in behind enemy lines. It's been used as a very offensive measure. But this is really cool that it's now given us the options to use reserves in a very defensive measure. And I like it. I think it just adds so many more options. It feels right. It feels right that if you're within the enemy deployment zone, on their home turf, essentially, it's going to be dangerous for you. It kind of makes sense. Yeah, I like this. The more of these 9th edition rules that I read about, the more and more excited I get about 9th edition. And I know that's kind of the point with these articles. Games Workshop are the masters of getting us all whipped up into a frenzy and on that hype train. Doot, doot. But yes, I am fully on board this hype train currently. If the news keeps coming out like this, then I am a very happy bunny. It goes on a little bit further. In general, attackers will want to carefully choose the order of their charges to coax the other player into using Overwatch prematurely. And defenders will need to consider whether they should withhold their Overwatch fire for later. You may find some units or circumstances granting Overwatch without the need for a stratagem. These will be very valuable indeed. So yeah, there we have it, guys. Overwatch getting a massive overhaul. And this is fantastic. This is fantastic. It's a much needed boost to melee armies. It really, really is. Melee armies have found it a struggle in 8th. Overwatch is very powerful. And along with all these new rules that have been revealed thus far in 9th, it was starting to look like it was going to be really tough for assault-based armies. But this helps a lot. This is going to force players to make decisions and make choices using stratagems on this. Everyone's getting more stratagems, more CP now. Everyone's starting off with the same and getting access to more. You're generating CP each turn. You've still got the abilities of special warlord traits and commanders and special rules that give you refunds on things. So there's going to be so many more stratagems being used. But it's great that some of these abilities now are used as stratagems because it's going to force people to really make decisions. Because, yeah, you can use this Overwatch stratagem, but it's going to be spending CP that you could be spending on other stuff, potentially more offensive stuff. We know how powerful stratagems are already. They're game-changing. And this being one of the core stratagems, you know, are you going to use that? Rather than one of your normal stratagems, because let's face it, for most armies and for most units, you are just going to be hitting on 6s. Unless you've got units that auto hit or you've got special rules like the Tau, then it's going to force you to think very carefully. You know, it can be very easy to go, yep, I'm going to spend that CP, Overwatch, you know, I want to soft that unit up before it hits my lines. But is it going to be worth it a lot of the time, or are you going to choose just to let it happen, save that CP and use it elsewhere? It's going to be interesting. And I think any rules that come in that force you to think are fantastic. When you're playing a strategy game like this, you want to be thinking all the time. You want to be making decisions. You also want to be forcing your opponent to have to make tough decisions and tough calls and potentially make mistakes. So yeah, so far all really good. I'm loving the way this is going so far. 9th edition looks like it could very well be the best edition yet. There you go, I've said it. But anyway, guys, let me know what you think about this. Has this eased your concerns? Those of you that were very concerned with the news thus far, has this done something to ease your concerns somewhat, or do you still think Assault Armies are going to be facing an uphill battle? And do you like this? Do you like this? Or do you think this rule is crap? Let me know in the comment section below. Please hit the like button. If you want to keep up to date with all this kind of 9th edition news, I'm doing the best I can, getting it out to you as much as I can. But if you do want to keep up with all my videos, please hit that subscribe button, hit the little bell, you know all the stuff. But anyway, guys, for now, this is 6+ Stevo, signing out.